Welcome to my channel, US Rare Coins News, Top 1. Today we are looking at a quarter that changed American money forever, and most people still treat it like pocket change, the 1965 Washington quarter. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. But this coin marks one of the biggest turning points in US coin history. And here's the part that might surprise you. Some 1965 quarters have sold for thousands of dollars. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly why this coin is so important, what makes certain ones rare, the errors collectors hunt for, and how to tell if the quarter sitting in your drawer could actually be worth serious money. And trust me, the most valuable version is not what most people expect. Let's take a close look. Bring the camera in tight on the front of the coin. You'll see the familiar profile of George Washington facing left. The word Liberty arches across the top. The date 1965 sits at the bottom. And right away, something is missing. There's no mint mark. That's not an accident. Now flip the coin over slowly. Show a steady close-up of the eagle with wings spread wide, arrows in its claws, olive branches below. United States of America across the top. Quarter dollar along the bottom. Clean. Bold. Classic. But 1965 was not just another year. In the early 1960s, the United States had a coin shortage. Silver prices were rising. People were hoarding coins because the metal inside them was becoming more valuable than the face value. So in 1965, everything changed. The US government removed silver from the quarter. Before 1965, quarters were 90% silver. Starting in 1965, they were made with a copper core and a nickel outer layer. That means the 1965 quarter was the first year of the new, clad, composition, and here's where it gets interesting. To discourage collectors from hoarding new coins, the US Mint removed mint marks from all coins between 1965 and 1967. That means even coins made in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco didn't carry a mint mark. So every normal 1965 quarter looks the same. Over 1.8 billion were made. That's billion with a B. So you might be thinking, how could this possibly be rare? Most aren't. A typical circulated 1965 quarter is worth face value 25 cents. Even nice uncirculated examples usually sell for $5 to $15 depending on condition, but now we're getting to the part you've been waiting for. There are a few 1965 quarters that are worth a lot more. First, let's talk about silver error coins. A small number of 1,965 quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets from 1964. That means a few 1965 dated quarters exist that are actually solid silver. Here's how you can tell. Show a side-by-side close-up of the coin's edge. A normal clad 1965 quarter has a visible copper-colored stripe along the edge. A silver version does not. It will look solid silver all the way through. If you find a 1965 quarter with no copper stripe, you need to weigh it. A normal clad quarter weighs about 5.67 grams. A silver quarter weighs about 6.25 grams. That small difference has meant huge money at auction. Authenticated 1965 silver error quarters have sold for several $1,000s. Some examples have reached $5,000 to $7,000 depending on condition. Now imagine finding that in a jar of old change. But we're not done yet. There are also double die errors. Look closely at the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. If you see clear doubling in the letters, not just machine doubling but strong, separated impressions, that can add significant value, then there are off-center strikes. Picture the design shifted to one side, leaving a blank crescent of metal. If the date is still visible, collectors love these. Depending on how dramatic the shift is, they can sell from $100 to several $100s, and here's something most people overlook. High-grade condition. Because over a billion were made, most 1965 quarters are worn. Finding one in pristine mint state condition with sharp detail, strong luster, and minimal marks is much harder than it sounds. Certified examples graded MS-67 by top grading services have sold for over $1,000 at auction. That's for a coin most people spend without thinking twice. So let's recap the real numbers. A circulated 1965 quarter is worth 25 cents. A bright uncirculated example might bring $5 to $15. High-grade certified coins can reach into the low thousands. And confirmed silver error strikes have sold for several $1,000s at major auctions. No hype. Just market reality. Now I want to know, have you ever checked the edge of your 1965 quarters? Do you own one right now? And if you found a silver error worth thousands, would you sell it, or keep it? Drop your answer in the comments. I read them all. The 1965 Washington quarter isn't just another coin. It represents the end of the silver era and the beginning of modern American coinage. It's a piece of history you can still find in circulation today, and sometimes, history hides value in plain sight. Top 2. Today we are talking about a 1973 Washington quarter that most people would spend without a second thought, even though a few of them have sold for more than $1,000, yes. A 1973 quarter, not silver. Not ancient. Not from the 1800s. Just 1973. And yet, depending on what you're holding, that simple 25-cent coin could be worth far more than face value. In the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly what makes this coin special, the rare versions collectors fight over, the errors that bring serious money, and the tiny details that could completely change its value. So don't skip ahead. The most surprising part is coming up. Let's bring the camera in close. On the front, you'll see the familiar left-facing portrait of George Washington. Liberty across the top. In God we trust to the left. The date 1973 at the bottom. Now tilt the coin slightly under the light. See how the surface shines? That shine, that cartwheel luster, is one of the first things collectors look for. Flip it over. An eagle with wings stretched wide. Arrows in its claws. Olive branches below. United States of America around the rim. $quarter at the bottom. This classic reverse design served Americans for decades before the state quarters ever existed, but here's where things get interesting. In 1973, quarters were struck at 3 different mints, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If you see no mint mark, it was made in Philadelphia. A small d means Denver. An s means San Francisco, and each one tells a different story. Philadelphia struck over 340 million quarters that year. Denver made over 230 million. Huge numbers. That's why most 1973 quarters in circulation today are worth exactly 25 cents, but San Francisco did something different. San Francisco produced proof coins. These weren't meant for circulation. They were specially struck for collectors, with mirror-like backgrounds and sharp, frosted details. If you've never seen a proof quarter up close, imagine a coin that looks almost like glass behind the design. Show a side-by-side close-up of a regular 1973 quarter and a 1973 S proof. The difference is dramatic. Now here's the twist, some 1973 S proof quarters have deep cameo contrast, where Washington and the eagle look frosted white against jet-black mirrored fields. These are called deep cameo or ultra cameo proofs. And collectors pay strong premiums for that contrast. A typical circulated 1973 quarter. Face value. A nice uncirculated example from Philadelphia or Denver. Usually $5 to $15 depending on condition, but a high-grade 1973 quarter graded MS-67 by a top service. Those have sold for over $1,000 at auction. Why? Because finding one nearly flawless after decades is incredibly difficult. Think about it. These coins were used, dropped, scratched, tossed in drawers. Finding one with sharp strike, booming luster, and almost no marks is rare. And then we get to errors. This is where things get exciting. There are 1973 quarters with double die errors. Look closely at Liberty and In God We Trust. If you see strong, clear doubling in the letters, not just blurry edges but real separation, that can mean serious value. There are also off-center strikes. Imagine the design shifted noticeably to one side, leaving a blank crescent of metal. If the date is still visible, collectors love it. Depending on how far off-center it is, these can sell from $100 to several $100s. Clipped planchets are another eye-catcher. That's when a curved piece of the coin is missing because of a mistake during the blanking process. It looks dramatic. And dramatic sells. Now here's something most people miss: condition is king. take a close look at Washington's cheek and jawline. On many 1973 quarters, you'll see contact marks and tiny scratches. That's normal. But if you find one with clean, smooth surfaces and strong detail in the hair above the ear, you might have something special. Also check the eagle's breast feathers on the reverse. Weak strikes can make them look flat. A bold, fully detailed eagle adds to the value, and here's a small cliffhanger for you. Some collectors believe that certain 1973 quarters were saved in original mint rolls and forgotten for decades. Every once in a while, one of those rolls gets opened. Inside, brilliant coins that look like they were struck yesterday. Imagine being the person who opens that roll. Now let's talk real-world numbers. A worn 1973 quarter is worth 25 cents. A bright uncirculated example might bring $5 to $15. High-grade certified coins in the top mint state levels have sold for over $1,000. Proof coins from San Francisco usually sell for $5 to $20, but deep cameo examples in perfect grades can reach a few $100s or more. Major error coins can range from around $100 to several hundred depending on the type and condition. No hype. Just actual market ranges. So here's my question for you: have you checked your 1973 quarters lately? Do you have one with a mint mark? And if you could choose, would you rather find a flawless high-grade coin, or a dramatic error? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what you'd hope to discover. The 1973 Washington quarter may not be silver. It may not look rare. But hidden among hundreds of millions of ordinary coins are a few that stand out, because of condition, contrast, or minting mistakes. That's what makes coin collecting so addictive. The treasure looks ordinary until it isn't. Top 3. Today we are looking at a quarter from 1977 that almost everyone has seen, but very few people have actually examined closely. And here's the wild part. Some 1977 quarters have sold for over $1,000, yes. A coin you might find in your spare change. So what makes one 1977 Washington quarter worth 25 cents, and another worth real money? In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what to look for, the rare versions collectors chase, the mint mistakes that drive up value, and the small details that can completely change the price of this coin. Let's get into it. Bring the camera in tight on the front of the coin. There's the familiar left-facing portrait of George Washington. Liberty across the top. In God we trust to the left. The date 1977 at the bottom. At first glance, nothing unusual. Just a classic American quarter, now tilted under the light. Watch that cartwheel shine move across the surface. That luster is one of the biggest clues to value. Flip it over. You'll see the powerful eagle with wings fully extended. Arrows in its claws. Olive branches below. United States of America across the top. Quarter dollar at the bottom. This reverse design had been in use since 1932, and by 1977 it was already iconic. But here's what most people don't realize: that in 1977, quarters were struck at 3 different mints. Philadelphia, which has no mint mark. Denver, marked with a small d. And San Francisco, marked with an S. Philadelphia struck over 468 million quarters that year. Denver made over 256 million. Massive numbers. That's why the average 1977 quarter you find in circulation is worth exactly face value, but San Francisco did something different. San Francisco produced proof quarters. These were not meant for everyday use. They were specially made for collectors using polished dies and specially prepared planchets. The result? Mirror-like backgrounds and sharp, frosted designs that if you have a 1977 S proof, hold it under the light. The field should look deep and reflective, almost like glass. The details on Washington's hair and the eagle's feathers should look crisp and clean. Now here's where things start to get interesting. Some 1977 S proof quarters have strong cameo contrast. That means Washington and the eagle look frosted white against dark, mirrored fields. These are called deep cameo proofs. And collectors pay more for that dramatic contrast, especially in perfect condition. But that's just the beginning. Let's talk about errors. There are 1977 quarters with double die varieties. Look closely at the words Liberty and In God We Trust. Use a magnifying glass. If you see clear separation in the letters, not just minor blur but distinct doubling, you could be looking at a valuable variety. There are also off-center strikes. Imagine the design shifted noticeably to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. If the date 1977 is still visible, those errors can sell for $100 or more depending on how dramatic the shift is. Clipped planchet errors are another eye-catcher. That's when a curved piece of the coin is missing due to a mistake during production. These are easy to spot and highly collectible, and here's something most people underestimate: condition. Because hundreds of millions were made, most 1977 quarters have been heavily circulated. They've been in pockets, vending machines, parking meters, and coin jars for decades. Finding one in pristine mint state condition is much harder than it sounds. Take a close look at Washington's cheek. That's the first place you'll see wear or contact marks. If it's smooth and clean with strong luster, that's a good sign. Now check the eagle's breast feathers on the reverse. On weaker strikes, they can look flat. Strong feather detail adds to the appeal. High-grade 1977 quarters graded at the very top levels, such as MS-67, have sold at auction for over $1,000. Not because they're rare in mintage, but because they're rare in perfect condition. Think about that. A coin made in the hundreds of millions becomes valuable simply because almost none survived without damage. Now let's talk real numbers. That a circulated 1977 quarter is worth 25 cents. An uncirculated example from Philadelphia or Denver might bring $5 to $15 depending on quality. High-grade certified coins in top mint state grades have sold for over $1,000. Proof coins from San Francisco usually sell for $5 to $20, but deep cameo examples in flawless grades can reach a few $100s. Major error coins often range from $100 to several $100s depending on the type and condition. No exaggeration. Just actual market ranges collectors pay. So here's what I want to know. Do you have a 1977 quarter sitting somewhere right now? Have you ever checked the mint mark? And if you found a perfect high-grade coin, would you keep it as part of your collection, or cash it in? Drop your answer in the comments. I love hearing what you would do. The 1977 Washington quarter may look ordinary. It may feel ordinary. But hidden among millions of common coins are a few that stand out because of condition, contrast, or minting mistakes. That's what makes coin collecting so exciting. The treasure doesn't announce itself. You have to look for it. Top 4. Today we are looking at a quarter from 1987 that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, yet some of these have sold for more than $1,000. It's not silver. It's not ancient. It's not a special commemorative. It's the 1987 Washington quarter, and here's the part that surprises almost everyone: this coin was never supposed to be in your pocket in the first place. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why 1987 quarters are different from most modern coins, which versions collectors hunt for, the errors that can multiply the value fast, and how to tell if the one you have is just worth 25 cents, or something a lot more interesting. Let's bring the camera in close. On the front, you see the familiar left-facing portrait of George Washington. Liberty at the top. In God We Trust to the left. The date 1987 at the bottom looks normal, right? Flip it over. An eagle with wings fully spread. Arrows in its claws. Olive branches below. United States of America across the top. $quarter at the bottom. The classic reverse that had been used for decades before the state quarters changed everything in 1999. So what makes 1987 so special? Here's the twist: in 1987, the US Mint did not release any uncirculated mint sets for collectors. That means if you wanted fresh, uncirculated 1987 quarters from Philadelphia or Denver, you couldn't just buy a standard government mint set like in most other years. Production numbers were lower than many surrounding years. Philadelphia struck about 582 million quarters. Denver struck about 655 million. Still big numbers, but lower compared to some previous years, and because there were no official mint sets, high-quality uncirculated examples are harder to find today than you might think. Now zoom in on the mintmark area. If there's no mintmark, it's from Philadelphia. If you see a small d, it's from Denver. And if you see an S, that means it's a proof coin from San Francisco. Let's talk about those proof coins for a second. The 1987 S proof quarters were specially struck for collectors. Hold one under the light and you'll see deep, mirror-like fields and sharp details. Some examples have strong cameo contrast, where Washington and the eagle look frosted against a dark, reflective background. In top condition, especially graded PR70 deep cameo, these proof coins can sell for several $100s, but here's where things get really interesting, because uncirculated 1987 quarters weren't widely saved in official mint sets. Finding a business strike 1987 quarter in pristine mint state condition is challenging. Take a close look at Washington's cheek. That area shows contact marks quickly. If it's clean, smooth, and bright with strong luster, you might have something special. Now check the hair above his ear. Weak strikes can make those details look flat. Strong, sharp lines add value. Flip to the reverse and inspect the eagle's breast feathers. Full feather detail and minimal marks are key for high grades. High-grade examples of 1987 P or 1987 D quarters graded at MS 67 or higher have sold at auction for over $1,000. Not because they're rare in mintage, but because they're rare in top condition. Think about that for a second. Millions made. Almost none surviving perfectly, and then there are errors. Double die varieties can appear on the date or lettering. Use a magnifying glass and check Liberty and In God We Trust carefully. Strong, clear doubling, not machine doubling, but true separation, can bring a premium. Off-center strikes are another possibility. If the design is noticeably shifted and the date is still visible, those can sell from $100 upward depending on how dramatic the error is. Clipped planchets and die cracks also attract collectors, especially when they're bold and easy to see. Now here's a small challenge for you. Go grab a 1987 quarter and check the edge. You should see the copper-colored stripe, since these are clad coins with a copper core and nickel outer layers. Nothing unusual there. But the real value isn't in the metal. It's in the condition and the rarity of high-grade examples. Let's talk real numbers. A circulated 1987 quarter from Philadelphia or Denver is worth 25 cents. A bright uncirculated example might bring $5 to $15. High-grade certified coins in the very top mint state levels have sold for over $1,000 at auction. Proof coins from San Francisco typically sell for $5 to $20, while perfect deep cameo examples can reach several $100s. Major error coins often range from around $100 to several hundred depending on type and condition. No hype. Just real market ranges. So now I want to ask you something. Do you have a 1987 quarter in your change jar? Have you ever checked it under magnification? And if you found one graded at the highest levels, would you sell it, or hold on to it as a piece of modern coin history? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm curious what you do. The 1987 Washington quarter proves something important. Even modern coins, even coins you grew up using, can carry hidden value. Not because they're made of silver. Not because they're ancient. But because condition, rarity, and a little bit of history can transform ordinary pocket change into a collector's prize. Top 5. Today we are looking at a 1984 D Washington quarter that might be sitting in your pocket right now, and you'd never guess how much some of these coins can be worth. Yes, a 1984 D quarter. Not silver, not ancient, not special at first glance. But if you know what to look for, this coin can be much more than just 25 cents. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why this coin is interesting to collectors, the rare varieties and errors that make some examples highly valuable, and how to tell if the quarter you have could actually be worth serious money. Let's bring the camera in close. On the front, you'll see the familiar left-facing portrait of George Washington. Liberty arches across the top. In God We Trust sits to the left. The date 1984 is at the bottom, and just to the right, the small d tells us this coin was struck in Denver, tilted under the light. See the shine? That's called cartwheel luster, and collectors love it. The brighter and cleaner it is, the more likely it's valuable. Flip it over. You've got the eagle with wings fully spread, arrows in its claws, olive branches below. United States of America around the top, $quarter at the bottom. Classic, crisp, and instantly recognizable. Now here's the twist that in 1984, Denver produced over 918 million quarters. That's nearly a billion coins. Most are still in circulation, which is why your average 1984 D quarter is just worth 25 cents. But among that sea of coins, some stand out. Proof coins, for example, were struck in San Francisco, not Denver. And while 1984 D quarters weren't proof, certain errors make the Denver coins collectible. Take a closer look at the lettering on the obverse. Some 1984 D quarters show slight doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust. This is called a double die variety. Real double die errors are rare and can add significant value, sometimes hundreds of dollars depending on condition. Then there are off-center strikes. Imagine the coin's design shifted so that a crescent of blank metal shows on one side. If the date remains visible, collectors go crazy for them. Depending on the severity, these errors can sell for $100 or more. Clipped planchets are another exciting error. That's when a curved piece of metal is missing due to a blanking mistake. Bold, visible clips attract collectors immediately. Condition also matters. Because millions were made, most 1984 D quarters have contact marks or light scratches. High-grade uncirculated coins are much harder to find. Zoom in on Washington's cheek and jawline. Smooth surfaces, strong luster, and crisp hair details mean the coin could be worth significantly more than face value. Check the eagle's feathers on the reverse as well. Sharp, well-defined feathers increase the appeal to collectors. Top-graded coins, like MS-67 or higher, have sold for hundreds of dollars. Major error coins or rare double dies can fetch over $1,000 at auction. And that's for a coin made in the hundreds of millions. Let's put this in perspective. A worn, circulated 1984 D quarter. 25 cents. A clean uncirculated one. $5 to $15. A high-grade certified coin or error variety. Hundreds, sometimes over $1,000. Now here's my question. Do you have any 1984 D quarters in your change jar? Have you ever checked the edge or the letters closely? Would you sell it if it was high grade, or add it to your collection for the thrill of owning a rare coin? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know what you would do. The 1984 D Washington quarter proves a simple fact about coin collecting: even a seemingly ordinary coin can hide real value. Condition, mint errors, and careful observation can turn everyday change into a collector's treasure. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the 1984 D Washington quarter, hit like, subscribe, and check out the next coin video on your screen. Because the next coin that could be worth hundreds, or even thousands, might already be in your pocket.